I am Logan. And if someone were to ask me when my life began to veer in a different direction, one I never imagined stepping into, it was probably on a completely ordinary afternoon in the university dorm, when Mason, my best friend, sat down next to me and said, "Logan, I think I'm curious about boys." Just 6 words, but enough to make my heart skip a beat. Mason and I met in our freshman year. We crossed paths in a general philosophy class, the kind no one really wanted to take, but it ended up seating us next to each other on the first morning of the semester. Mason was the type who drew attention without trying. Messy brown hair like he'd just woken up, blue eyes that could easily pull you in, and a smile that tilted slightly, looking both disheveled and genuine. As for me, I was ordinary. Friends often said I had a stable vibe, meaning not as loud as Mason, not attention-seeking, but always good at listening. Maybe that's why Mason and I became such an odd pair of best friends. He was explosive, I was calm. He loved weekend parties, I preferred quiet coffee spots. Yet somehow we always found our way back to each other. What Mason didn't know, or at least I thought he didn't, was that I'd been hiding something for nearly 2 years. I liked boys, and among them, I liked him. But Mason was straight, at least until today's statement. That afternoon, Mason walked into my room without knocking, as usual. He was wearing an oversized gray hoodie, hair tousled like he'd just woken from one of his 15-minute brain rescue naps. I was sitting there working on an essay when Mason flung himself onto my bed, sighing heavily with exhaustion. "Logan, I think I'm confused," Mason said, staring at the ceiling. "Why?" "Economics exam," I asked without looking up. "No, this is weirder." "Weird how?" He was silent for so long that I had to turn and look. Mason was biting his lower lip, a habit when he was stressed. Then he said those 6 words. Like a bomb. I set my pen down. "What do you mean, curious in what way?" Mason covered his face with both hands. "I don't know. I really don't. Lately, I've been noticing guys at the gym. And I've seen clips on TikTok about gay couples. And I find them cute." I swallowed hard. "Yeah. That's normal." "No, I mean I find it cuter than normal." My heart was pounding so fast I was afraid Mason could hear it. He sat up, hands on his knees, and looked up at me. "Logan, you're the only one I dare talk to about this. I don't want anyone thinking I'm weird. Being curious doesn't make you weird." I tried to keep my voice steady. "A lot of people go through it." Mason looked at me, a gaze that lingered longer than friends usually do. "I want to understand what I'm feeling, but I don't know where to start." Pursed my lips. Part of me was thrilled enough to burst into laughter, another part terrified. What if Mason was just temporarily curious? What if he went through a phase and then went back to dating girls? I didn't want to be a wrong experiment in his life. But Mason continued, his voice softer. "I've been thinking. Maybe it's because I'm so close to you." This time I couldn't hide my reaction. "What do you mean?" "I don't know." Mason shrugged, but his eyes didn't avoid mine. "Whenever you smile, I feel weird. And sometimes when we go out for late-night eats, I look at you longer than friends normally do." I took a deep breath, trying not to tremble. I'd imagined so many things about Mason over the past 2 years. If he held my hand, if he hugged me, if he said words that only existed in my dreams. But I never thought I'd actually hear them from his own mouth. I asked, "Mason, what do you want me to do?" He looked at me as if the answer was right in my eyes. "I want you to help me figure it out. Just, if you don't mind." Mind? If he knew how long I'd wanted to touch that hand. I swallowed all my emotions, trying to keep my voice calm. "Okay, I'll help." Mason exhaled, like he'd just dropped a massive weight. He didn't know that the weight had now shifted to me. He smiled, a smile that softened my heart. "Thanks, Logan. Really. I don't know how to say it right, but I trust you." And then Mason did the thing that threw me off the most. He placed his hand on my knee, squeezing lightly like reassurance, or like a beginning. In that small room, amid the soft hum of the heater, with the afternoon light streaming through the window, I realized my life had just turned a new page. The page where Mason, the guy I'd liked for 2 years, was asking me to help him explore his curiosity about the very things I'd once longed for. I didn't know where this would lead, but I knew one thing for sure. I no longer had to dream alone. After Mason left my room that night, I sat there alone for a long time. It felt like my heart was racing ahead, while my brain lagged a few steps behind to process what had just happened. I'd imagined hundreds of scenarios for Mason and me. From him subtly getting jealous of someone I dated, to us accidentally holding hands on a drunken evening. But I never thought Mason would be the one to open this door proactively. "I want you to help me figure it out." A sentence too dangerous for someone who'd secretly liked him for over 2 years like me. The next day, Mason dragged me to the student cafeteria for lunch. The canteen was always noisy, but Mason seemed unusually calm, or at least trying to appear that way. When I sat down, Mason leaned his elbows on the table, looking at me with eyes half curious, half tense. "Logan, did what I said yesterday make you feel weird?" he asked. "It was weird," I replied honestly, "but not in a bad way." Mason smiled faintly, his blue eyes dropping like he was shy. That was rare for him. "I think, if you don't mind, I want to start with something light first." "What do you mean?" "Like, you explain it to me, about those feelings. The things you guys feel when you like boys." "You guys?" I laughed. "Sounds like I'm the community rep." "Well, at least you have experience." Mason propped his chin up. "I don't." I looked at him for a few seconds. This might be the first time Mason admitted his vulnerability, and I felt I couldn't joke too much. "Actually," I said, "it's similar to how you feel when you like a girl. The difference is you feel connected to a man more." Mason nodded like he was memorizing every word. "So what about attraction? How's it different with guys compared to girls? I mean, emotionally." I took a breath. Saying these things in front of Mason always felt like I was revealing some secret. "It's different in that," I said quietly. "The guy you like makes you feel admiring, wanting to be close, wanting him to look at you in a special way. Sometimes it's like light competition, but also like being drawn to each other." Mason stared at me for a long time. "I think I get it. Like when I look at guys in the gym, I feel, wanting to touch them out of curiosity." I nearly choked. "Yeah, that's one form." Mason laughed, scratching the back of his neck. "Sorry, I know it sounds weird." "It's not," I replied, though my heart was running a marathon. "You're learning to understand yourself. I respect that." He sighed in relief. That afternoon, Mason suggested we walk around campus. The autumn air was slightly chilly, leaves turning red, and the sun was slowly setting behind the large library building. We walked side by side, our hoodie sleeves brushing lightly with each step. "What do you think I should do next?" Mason asked. "You mean, to know if you really like guys?" "Yeah." I thought for a moment. "You have to give yourself a chance to experience real emotions. Don't force it. Don't act. For example, try accepting the feeling when you find someone attractive. Don't deny it. Don't brush it off. Just observe where it leads you." Mason paused. "But what if I notice a specific guy? Should I say something?" I smiled faintly. "Depends on who the guy is." Mason turned to look at me, a gaze that lingered deeper than friends usually exchange. "Or, I could try starting by feeling what's happening right now." I froze. "Right now? With who?" "With you." The wind was cold, but my face burned hot. "Logan," Mason said slowly, "when we're walking side by side like this, I feel comfortable in a very different way. I notice you more than before. I don't know if it's because you're the one I trust most or because I like you in some way." My heart tightened. I looked at him, those eyes, those lips, that familiar tilted stance, and it felt like the past 2 years had all led to this moment. "Mason," I tried to keep my voice steady, "I don't want you to feel pressured. If you're in a curious phase, I don't want to be the one you test just because you need answers." "I'm not saying I want to test." Mason stepped closer to me. "I'm saying I feel something, and I want to be honest about it. For the first time, Mason didn't avoid it. No jokes. No hiding. Just him real and vulnerable. I opened my mouth, but before I could say anything, Mason asked softly, "Logan, have you ever noticed me?" I smiled wryly. "I've noticed you for 2 years now." Mason's eyes widened. "Really? I just didn't say because I thought you were straight. And I didn't want to ruin us." He exhaled, like he'd just solved a big puzzle. "So, could we try figuring this out together?" I felt the whole world pause in that small moment on the autumn campus lawn. I answered honestly, "If you want, I'm willing." Mason smiled. Not confused, not awkward, but a rare smile that made me believe he was stepping into this not just out of curiosity, but sincerely. He said softly, "So, I want to try starting with something simple. Logan, can I hold your hand?" For the first time in my life, I understood what it felt like for the ground beneath my feet to turn soft like water. But I extended my hand, and Mason took it, slowly, firmly, full of warmth. I didn't know where this would lead, but Mason's hand at that moment told me that everything had truly just begun. There are small moments where you know for sure your life has changed direction, and the moment Mason held my hand that afternoon was one of them. The feel of his hand, warm and slightly trembling, interlacing with mine as if he was trying something he wasn't sure whether to fear or anticipate, made me both happy and bewildered. We walked along the path back to the dorm, saying nothing for a few minutes. But that silence wasn't heavy. It was like space for us to catch up on what was happening. Finally, Mason chuckled softly. "Oh man," he said. "My hand's sweating." "Mine too." "Really?" Mason looked over at me, eyes shining like flashlights. "So it's normal, right?" "Yeah. If you're nervous, it is." Mason scratched his cheek with his free hand. "It's not nervousness. I just can't believe this is really happening." "Me neither. But you like it, right?" Mason asked, his voice small but full of hope. I looked straight at him. "Yeah." "Ido." Mason's face relaxed, like I just saved him from some black hole. He squeezed my hand lightly, an action that made my heart beat twice as fast. "Logan," Mason continued, "if I'm overthinking today, just ignore it. I've never done anything like this. I know, but I want to try, because I trust you." That sentence, "I trust you," warmed me to my bones. That afternoon, we stopped at the small coffee shop near the academic area. Mason ordered his usual mocha, but this time he sat next to me instead of across from me. Just that change in distance made it hard for me to breathe normally. Mason leaned his elbow on the table, turning to look at me. "Hey, Logan, do you think being curious about boys means I'm gay?" "Not necessarily." "So what am I?" "I don't want to label you," I said slowly. "You're in the phase of figuring yourself out. There's nothing wrong with not knowing the answer right away." Mason nodded, absorbing every word. "But I know one thing for sure." "What?" "I'm attracted to you in a way I've never felt with anyone else." I turned my face away, trying to hide the stupid smile threatening to break out. "I'm serious." Mason bit his straw, looking adorably frustrated. "I know. It's just, I'm not used to hearing you say things like that." "So how do you want me to say it?" Mason asked seriously, like he was seeking instructions. "Just say it normally. Don't try." "But I'm not trying," Mason countered. "I'm just being honest." I couldn't respond. I was afraid if I said more, I'd accidentally push Mason too far when he was only taking his first steps. That evening, we both headed back to the dorm. At my door, Mason hesitated. "Logan, can I ask this?" "Yeah, go ahead. What does it feel like when you like another guy? Is it like what you're feeling with me?" I almost gasped. The way Mason looked at me, expectant, confused, sincere, made me want to hug him right then, but I stayed calm. "I've liked you for a long time," I said, my voice dropping. "So, yeah, the feeling with you is like that, but stronger, much stronger." Mason was silent for a few seconds, then touched his chest lightly. This spot here feels strong too. I don't know why. I chuckled softly. That's a good sign. Yeah, I think so. Mason smiled back, then got serious. So, what do we do next tomorrow? You mean about figuring out emotions? Yeah, up to you. I don't want to push. You're not pushing. I want to. I thought for a moment and said, I have morning class tomorrow. Afternoon's free. If you want, we can go to the park behind the soccer field. It's quiet. You can talk more comfortably. Mason smiled. Good. Let's meet there. He turned to walk a few steps, then turned back like he remembered something. Oh, Logan. What? Mason came closer, closer than friends normally do, and placed his hand on my shoulder. I'm saying this for real. I'm really glad the first person I talked to about this is you. I felt my whole body melt. Good night, Mason said, his voice unusually warm. Yeah. Good night. He walked toward his room. But at the door, Mason suddenly turned back, looked at me, opened his mouth like he wanted to say something, then changed his mind, just smiling. And the door closed. That night, I lay in bed, eyes on the dark ceiling. I knew Mason was stepping into a new journey, one where I wasn't sure I had the right to stand at the end. But today, when his hand held mine, when his eyes sought me in the crowd, when his voice warmed because he trusted me, I knew one thing clearly. No matter the outcome, Mason really wanted me to walk with him. And maybe that alone made my 2 years of waiting worth it. The next day, I went to class with my mind floating somewhere else. The professor was talking about modern political thought, but all I could hear in my head was Mason's line from last night. I'm really glad the first person I talked to about this is you. I didn't know if that was a sign of something big, but it was enough to make my whole morning feel light. When class ended, I checked my phone. Mason had texted one line. I'm already at the park. Come when you're done. I stared at that message longer than necessary. Not because of the words, but the feeling. Mason wasn't being vague.
No hesitación. No avoidance.
He was proactive, and that made my heart beat faster than usual. The park behind the soccer field was little known. It was tucked behind tall maple trees, with a small lake and a few wooden benches. When I arrived, Mason was sitting on a bench facing the lake, head slightly bowed, twirling his keys like he was waiting for someone important. When he saw me, he jumped up. Logan, I'm here. Mason smiled, that half-shy, half-happy smile. I thought you'd be late. Have I ever made you wait long? Yeah. Mason scratched his nose. True. He sat back down and I sat next to him. Not too close, but not far. Just enough for our elbows to brush occasionally. The air between us was different. Not awkwardly tense, but like a new layer. Fragile, waiting for someone to speak first. Mason was the one to start. Logan, I thought about it all night. I figured. Mason smiled faintly. Yeah, I know. He sat up straight, eyes on the lake before turning to me. I think, I'm not just curious. My heart skipped half a beat. What do you mean? I think I have real feelings for boys. At least for one specific boy. The air slowed. Only the wind pushing a few yellow leaves onto the lake. I asked softly, who? Mason looked at me, no avoidance, no hesitation. The one sitting next to me. My whole body felt like electricity was running through it. Part of me wanted to believe it immediately. The other part feared it was just a phase, a fleeting emotion. Mason was confusing. Mason, I began, my voice trembling slightly. Are you sure? I don't want you to mistake these new feelings for liking me.
No, Logan.
Mason shook his head. I'm not mistaken. He took a deep breath. The way you look at me, the way you listen to me, the way you make me feel safe. I've never felt that with anyone, girl or guy. I was silent, a silence both beautiful and painful. I was overjoyed enough to grab his hand right then, but I was also scared. Mason tilted his head. I know you're worried I'm just going through a phase. I know you're afraid I'll change my mind. I didn't answer, but my eyes did it for me. I'm not sure if I'm gay or bi or whatever. Mason continued. But I'm sure of one thing. I'm attracted to you. That sentence made me turn to face him directly. Mason, I like you a lot, but I don't want to do anything that makes you feel pressured or regret it later. You're not pressuring me. I chose to come here. But, he cut me off. Logan, do you think I'm the type to shallowly use you to test my feelings? I blinked.
No.
I don't think that. Then trust me. Mason lowered his voice. Trust that I want this. I sighed. I just want you to be sure. I can't be 100% sure when I'm just at the beginning. But I'm sure about my current feelings for you. Mason moved a few centimeters closer, making me feel his breath clearly. As for the future, we can figure it out together. Together? I repeated. Together, Mason emphasized. If you want. I looked into those blue eyes. Real, clear, no pretense. I knew he was telling the truth. And I knew he was scared. Scared I'd reject him. Scared I'd doubt him. Scared I wouldn't give him a chance. So I took a deep breath and said, okay, I'll go with you. Mason broke into a big smile, his eyes crinkling. Really?